trade unions to mobilise trade unionists in conjunction with other actors in civil society with a view to shifting the emphasis here in Ireland. I think we can say now with considerable certainty that the one-sided austerity approach, which has characterised public policy here and in Europe for now the 5th year running, hasn't worked. There was a time when, whereas we didn't agree with it, it was a stateable contention, and to argue that short-term gain, short-term pain would lead to long-term gain. But what we're having now is long-term pain, and we're arguing that if you have been trying something for a very long time, and if it has not worked, and the consequences of its not working has imposed immense misery and suffering on citizens, that it's time to try something else. And what we're hoping to do is to mobilise people to begin the process of persuading the authorities to switch the emphasis to growing the domestic economy. And this is especially against the background of the very positive experience in relation to exports, which was again covered extensively in this morning's media, where we're having phenomenal growth over the summer months, and that reflects a number of things, including the fact that unit labour costs in this economy are now estimated to have fallen vis-à-vis our major trading partners in the period since 2008 by something of the order of 19%. So even from the perspective of those who favour internal deflation, we would assert that even from that perspective, it's now time to start doing other things. Now, we in SIPTU fully acknowledge that the government has very limited space to manoeuvre. It's operating within the parameters of the Troika agreement, which was concluded by the last government. But the point we're making is that notwithstanding that there is very limited room to manoeuvre, the government does have options, and we're urging an approach to be taken which would proceed on two broad dimensions. The first would be to ensure that the burden of the remaining burden of adjustment over the next few budgets would be shifted from the shoulders of working people and people who depend on public services considerably, and onto the shoulders of those who are best able to contribute, people with wealth and people on high incomes. But more fundamentally, we would be arguing that apart from that, that the emphasis should be put on growing the domestic economy in order to ensure that growth does most of the remaining heavy lifting. And the point we're making in relation to shifting the burden from those on middle and low incomes onto those who are better off is not just about morality and social justice, which is a requirement in itself, but also for the very strong economic reason that it is perverse to cut the pay or the incomes of people on low or middle levels of society, because they, for the most part, have to spend all they receive in order to live. Consequently, they're recycling it into the economy, generating economic activity, whilst at the same time sparing the better off so that they can save it and take it out of the economy, one of the great perversities of our current situation is that we have a household savings ratio, a phenomenally high household savings ratio. So this emphasis on shifting the burden onto wealthier people is not just about justice; it's about economics as well. And not for the first time, equality is not just morally superior; it's economically superior as well. Now, in relation to this question of economic growth, the Congress of Trade Unions did put forward a very detailed proposal for an infrastructure stimulus earlier this year, which envisaged the investment of upwards of, not quite, but upwards of $3 billion a year over the next 3 to 4 years. That document, the Developing Growth and Jobs, highlighted the way in which such a programme could be funded, even notwithstanding the very limited resources available to the government. The government did announce a $2.25 billion initiative in July. We are arguing that as the credit rating of the economy improves, that could be increased substantially, and we could ultimately achieve the 9 billion or approaching 9 billion that we originally envisaged. And then we would be arguing for other measures designed to encourage people with savings to spend money and to avail of the opportunity to get good value and create jobs and place the economy on the road to recovery. So we're calling on members of the union and people who are concerned about the way things are going in the country to begin the work of persuading policymakers to embark on a new course focused on promoting job creation and growth in the domestic economy by turning out behind the banner of the Dublin Council of Trade Unions on the 24th of November. We don't see this as a one-off thing. We see this as a campaign which will roll out over the period which lies ahead into 2014 and on towards 2014. And I'll conclude by making the point that unless this shift in emphasis is accomplished, I'm not suggesting that it's easy for anyone to do it, but unless this shift in emphasis is accompanied, that notwithstanding how difficult Budget 2013 is going to be, Budget 2014 will be absolutely horrendous altogether. So it's time for everyone to engage in looking at a better, fairer way forward, and there is a better, fairer way forward. It's not true at all to say, as they have been saying for the last 4.5 to 5 years, that there is no alternative. In fact, the one thing that we can be sure of is that the alternative that they have opted for doesn't work.